welcome back to Conference Championship Week here for the sports nerds. It's crazy. We have 2 weeks left of football in the NFL, and season's a wrap. It doesn't even feel like it's been that long, but we're here. We're here at the end of January. I'm always joined by my good buddy, Braden Bankin. Braden, how are we doing this week?
Um, kind of mixed. Obviously, a weekend with football is better than a weekend without football. But I said a lot of things last week that did not age very well, so I'm sure we will get into that. But yeah, otherwise, other than making me look like a complete fool, it was still some pretty good games. So looking forward to getting into them.
Yeah, this week we did have some good games. We had some upsets happen, but generally all the games were pretty good. Yeah, we'll just jump right into it. First game of the divisional round. Chiefs versus Texans. Chiefs win this one by a score of 23-14. But I think the biggest headline when talking about this game is the favorable treatment that the Chiefs somehow get. Braden, I assume you watched this game, or
Um,
at least know
I
what's the
yeah,
controversy is.
yeah.
What are your thoughts on the two calls before we really get into a in-depth dive of the game?
I mean, I feel like if the announcers in the booth can't even keep it together, like Troy Aikman's up there having a heart attack because of these calls. Like I feel like that should really tell you, like, because these guys get paid to be as neutral and like professional as possible, and even he's like, hey man, this is getting ridiculous. Like there were even a couple that I don't think were called penalties, like when Mahomes was easing up right as he was going out of bounds to try to get that unnecessary roughness penalty. And it's like, man, you want you wonder why we have all these problems with quarterbacks getting hit, and then you have guys doing this. It's like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, and for those that didn't watch the game, the calls were that are in question right now. That's really the talking point of the game. Was the two either unnecessary roughness was the second one, and I know roughing the passer was the first one. The first one, I'm going to be honest. I think if you watch it in real time, I I mean, I'm going to say this as a biased Chiefs fan. I'll take my bias out of this. I think in real time, that looks like a bang bang roughing the passer call. But when you look at it in depth and you see the slow mo, it's like, oh, he didn't actually get hit in the head. That one I didn't think was too bad. But the second one, where he was already on the ground and slid as late as
Yeah.
possible to try to get that one's the one that I think people need to be talking about more, not the one on Will Anderson. Um, but yeah, those two calls certainly weren't great. I don't want to say it's necessarily a Chiefs thing, even though it always seems like calls go their way. I think it's just an NFL officiating being terrible because there were other calls this past weekend that we'll get into later. That Bills Ravens game, that DPI on the 1 yard line that extended the Bills drive for them to score a touchdown to go up by 11 in the first half, I think was a terrible call on Tre'Davious Wright. So I think this is just more of a NFL officiating thing, but it does seem like I'm going to try to take my bias out of this. It does seem like Kansas City usually gets the favorable edge in most of these. But I will say, typically in these playoff games, Kansas City is at home, and generally in most sports, the home team will get a call here or there. I don't want to theorize that for every call they get, but I want to say that's the majority of, like, if it's 50-50 of calling it or not calling it, they're probably going to call it if it's the Chiefs. Um, but kind of recapping into this game, like I said, Chiefs win this one 23-14. Uh, I think the big talking point is just the special teams errors on the Texans' part. Texans ended up missing 3 kicks, which cost them 7 points. And then obviously on the first opening drive, Nico, I'm gonna mispronounce his name, Ramijo, was able to take it 63 yards in the opening kickoff, which kind of just jump started the Chiefs' offense. Um, I don't know if you saw the video of the special teams player who forced the fumble, get into it with his coach on the sideline and push him. I don't know if you saw that. It just seemed like, for me, that the Texans just had too many mistakes in order to win this game. They also let up 8 sacks in this game, which you're never going to win a game if you give up 8 sacks. I mean, we just saw that happen on Monday Night Football with the Rams and the Vikings last week.
Mhm.
So you're always going to be behind the eight ball when you allow your quarterback to get hit that many times. But what were your kind of like takeaways from this game?
Um, I really overall, yeah, I think you got to work on that line. You cannot have CJ Stroud getting hit that many times. Um, yeah, at the end of the day, the conversation, like we said, is gonna be about the reffing, but the refs didn't give up 8 sacks. The refs did not allow all those defensive or the special teams miscues. So there were ways you could have won that game. You can it's easier to blame the refs than it is to blame yourselves, but there's internal work you got to work on in order to win that kind of game as well.
Yeah, I agree. Brock, we're just talking about kind of our overall reactions and thoughts after the Chiefs Texans divisional round game where Kansas City ended up winning this one 23-14. What are your thoughts in the game?
Honestly, I'm not shocked the game went the way it did score-wise. I'm shocked that the officials is the headline of the I guess the topic of conversation when talking about that game, because I don't really think the Texans were ever in it, in my opinion, while watching it. I never felt like I had hope. Not hope, because I don't really care if the Texans would have won, because I'd rather see the Chiefs play either the Bills, which they are, or the Ravens. But I never had this idea that the Texans actually could pull it off. Yeah, did the officiating make some interesting calls? Yeah. But there was interesting calls in other games too that nobody's talking about just because it's not Kansas City, nor did it happen multiple times. So I think the Texans weren't in this game at all. The Chiefs were able to dominate, really, in my opinion, in the entire game, even with maybe some questionable calls, which, again, I'm not denying that there wasn't bad calls, but I'm not saying that that's the reason that the Chiefs won this game. And usually when you look at those games that the Chiefs win that people complain about the officials, it's not honestly the reason why the Chiefs win those games. They usually are already so much ahead or whatever. It's just an added social media thing that makes the NFL honestly hard to watch sometimes, because when people all they do is complain about the officials, it's just annoying.
Yeah, some people certainly have I don't want to say agendas, but they're looking for reasons to complain when it comes to the officiating and the Chiefs. But I will do really want to shout out the Texans for a great season. CJ Stroud, although he had a rocky sophomore season, I think in the playoffs he played pretty well. They had a lot of injuries on this offense, so I give the Texans a lot of props. Not having a guy like Tank Dell, not having a guy like Stephon Diggs, and making it this far, I think is underrated by the Texans. And I think, if it was any other team, they probably would have had a fighting chance. But team that's, yeah.
I think people forget how big of an impact Stephon Diggs can have to an offense. And I felt like the first couple of weeks he was playing really well, and then he went down with that injury, and it just... So did the Texans offense, because CJ played really well at least the first couple of weeks, if I remember right. It looked like he was setting up to have a good sophomore campaign. Obviously, everybody at some point goes through a slump. Nobody has a really good first 3 years without having a bumpy section of their career. So hopefully you can see this team having a bright future. Hopefully they can keep it together, because that AFC South division is a mess right now. So if they can be a legit future contender for a deep playoff run, they're going to probably own that division for a while, because I don't see the Jaguars doing anything anytime soon. We can talk about how the GM got fired because nobody wanted to sign as their head coach. Indianapolis, I could see maybe in the future. They're a weird roster, because I see the potential, but I don't see it as much as Houston's team. And then you got Tennessee, which we don't even need to talk about. So,
yeah, you kind of hit the nail on the head. The Texans will still they'll probably win their division a few times over the next few years, so they don't have anything really to be too down about. But moving on, to the other number 1 seed in the other conference. The other game on Saturday was the Lions and the Commanders, and an upset happened. The Commanders win this one 45-31. Oh man, I just want to get your guys' thoughts on this game before we really look at the stats and kind of get a deep dive into this. Braden, what were your thoughts on this game?
Yeah. You kind of have to wonder if the Lions coordinators weren't looking too far into their futures instead of worrying about the game that they were playing. Because, man, you gave up 45 points. You're not going to win very many games when you're giving up that many points, especially when you're as injured as you are. You kind of have to be able to make the stops when you can get them, and you just didn't. But moving off of the Lions, Jaden Daniels, my God, welcome to the upper echelon, my man. Probably already one of, if not the greatest rookie quarterback season of all time. Taking the Commanders from a laughingstock to the NFC Championship for the first time since, I believe, 1991. I mean, good Lord. What can't be said about this Commanders team right now, really, overall. And I think Austin Eckler had a couple of pretty good plays as well. I kind of thought he was just left for dead, really, after the Chargers. But yeah, just overall, a lot of names you don't really expect or wouldn't expect before this year, and it's just clicked. So I cannot give enough props to the Commanders for their season already. And who knows? I mean, I wouldn't say the Eagles are I'm not saying they're a bad team, but they are not exactly like world beaters. So I wouldn't be surprised if they can make some noise happen this weekend. I wouldn't be surprised if Jaden Daniels makes his way into the Super Bowl as a rookie.
Brock, do you have any thoughts on the game?
Man, I knew Jared Goff pumpkin game was coming.
Kind of thought he
Mr.
got it
Tiny
out of
Hands.
that 5-pick game, but
Mr.
he
Tiny
had one
Hands.
more in him.
Man,
Mr. Tiny Hands.
and you know what? This is just worse because I guess I'm assuming we're going to talk about the other games, but like this just sets up my nightmare of an NFC championship game. I guess is NFC East championship game if you look at it, because I hate both teams. I can't stand a single soul in Philadelphia, and people may be like, why would you hate the Commanders? Well, their OC screwed my team of any type of potential for years. So, and now all of a sudden his offenses are good. Okay. Makes sense. Granted, I would take Jaden Daniels over Kyler Murray already. Hands down, there's no debate. What Jaden Daniels is doing is unbelievable. And if he wins against the Eagles, who have a really good defense, I don't think there is a debate that this is not the greatest rookie season for a quarterback in NFL history. And to have the chance to do, you look at I don't know why, but like for some reason this Commanders team, not same talent-wise roster, but the storyline of like just kind of nothing. This is giving me like New York Giants, Eli Manning, like legacy run to the Super Bowl, able to find a way to beat the Patriots not once but twice, which would be such a hilarious thing to hypothetically happen if the Commanders would happen to beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, ending the hopes of a three-peat from Kansas City, which
teams don't three-peat, man.
It
just doesn't happen.
This would, if the Commanders would to win this one, I don't think it would be on the same level. Like if hypothetically the Commanders would win the Super Bowl, I don't think it would be on the same level of the Eagles with Nick Foles, just because there was more talk about Jaden Daniels, obviously, heading into this season than Nick Foles because he was the backup. But the storyline of how the Commanders literally, like Braden, like you said, the laughingstock of the NFL. And that's saying something because the Browns have been a laughingstock for a while, but at one point, Washington was a bigger laughingstock. So credit to them. I do. It felt weird watching that. It didn't seem like a normal Lions game. They just seemed out of it. Goff with 3 interceptions. I know they won't think about this because you don't want to hit the panic button too early, but man, he's had a couple stinker of games in big time situations for them.
Mr. Tiny Hands, Jared Goff. Oh man.
You know what they say about tiny hands?
You know, as someone who, yeah, we won't comment on that, Brock.
I said small gloves. Chill. Jeez.
Small gloves. Yeah, might be.
They should have put Teddy 2 gloves in.
I want to know your
guess
guys' thoughts.
Sorry.
They did.
Yeah, they.
Yeah, he got playing time.
I want to know your thoughts. Do you guys think the Commanders won this game, or do you think it was Detroit losing this game more?
Detroit.
Yeah, this is Detroit losing, I think.
3 interceptions. One of them was a pick 6. QBR of 41.5.
Technically,
outside
4
of-
picks if we include Jamison Williams's.
That's true. It was a bad performance. Not a bad 31 points is still impressive, but like the mistakes cost them big time. You can't turn the ball over that much and expect to win. Doesn't matter what kind of situation you're in. Big game, small game, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I was technical difficulties. The internet was spazzing out, so I had to change that really quick. But
it was your wife.
I think when
heard
you
me
put
talking about the Commanders winning the Super Bowl, and then all of a sudden it started glitching.
Yeah, it just said no. I just think it's crazy that the Lions put their season on the line in the thoughts of Jamison Williams throwing a 20-yard pass down the field. And I don't know, man. I wouldn't put your season on the line with Jamison Williams throwing a pass 20 yards down the field. Ben Johnson probably should have saved that one for your job at Chicago. I'm just saying. That one probably could have stayed in the playbook.
How many games are there in NFL history where 4 players attempted a pass on the same team? I feel like it can't be many.
Yeah.
None that I can think of off the top of my head, but I guess I'm not looking at box scores like that.
Yeah.
Or
when's the last time you've had a quarterback, running back, and wide receiver all attempt to pass?
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't find anything right now. But that is a crazy stat I didn't even think about until you said that, Braden. But yeah, do you guys have any other thoughts on this game, or should we move on to the other NFC game?
If David Montgomery didn't get hurt before the playoffs, I feel like this offense would have looked a little different. I don't know if they were nervous of giving him the ball because Montgomery's going to take contact either way. So it doesn't matter if you give him a ball outside the 20 or inside the 20. He's gonna find contact and try to make it happen. And for some reason, it didn't seem like they were really doing what they usually did when they were inside the 5 and giving it to him. They were relying on other players, which was kind of shocking to me. So that was the only thing that stood out to me. I'll be interested to see who they replace their offensive and defensive coordinators now that they're both gone.
I know a guy for OC. He's the tight ends coach at Fresno State right now. Detroit, go hire him. Go hire him.
Yeah.
You like having Iowa players on the roster. You got Sammy Laporta up there. Ferentz has coached Sammy Laporta. Get him up there. Get Brian Ferentz the OC.
Dan Campbell would have him on the grill by week 5.
You give him that long? I'm not giving him that long. You say week 2 or 3. He might not make it out of the preseason, dude.
Hey, if we're just throwing out names for people that could take over, you might as well just get Phil Parker for defensive coordinator then.
Phil's too old. He doesn't want to move anywhere. Phil's with Kirk Ferentz. That's a package deal. Now, if you want to take Kirk, maybe. But I'm not ready to move on
You
from
want to
Kirk
talk
Ferentz.
about old? Dude, come on. Kirk's been in there for what 40 years now, dude.
No, Kirk's still got some good years left. He's got some good ones.
I haven't been alive for an Iowa
We're doing
season
some
where
hefty
he's not head
doing some
coach.
heavy lifting.
None of us have.
Here.
None of us have. He's been the
No.
coach since either 98 or 99, I want to say.
Yep.
I think 99. He's been the head coach. But
That's your department.
yeah.
And Fran McCaffrey's been there since 09.
Which is crazy to believe that he's been there for 15, 16 years.
Iowa State has had 3 men's basketball. Sorry, I have to do this. Iowa State's had 3 men's basketball coaches since then, and yet all of them have done better than Fran McCaffrey. And you can even say that about Steve Prohm. Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Steve Prohm's rosters made this Sweet 16. Steve Prohm. This would take another turn. I don't want it to go if I were to talk about what I want to happen with Steve Prohm. We know this will go a different direction, so let's change the subject. How about Rams Eagles? Let's talk about
that. Let's jump right into it. This was the first game on the Sunday slate. Philly wins this one by a score of 28-22. I think the big talking point is just another dominant Saquon Barkley performance. And yeah, what were your guys' thoughts on Saquon and the Eagles? And do you think they have what it takes to win it all?
If it's snowing and they weren't playing in a dome.
It's true.
That was so fun to watch. That was so fun to watch.
Because I remember turning it on when it first kicked off, and it was fine. And then I turned it back on in the middle of the second or third quarter, and it's just torrential snow everywhere, covering the field. It looked like a snow globe. Lincoln Financial was just shaking in a snow globe.
Football weather.
The field was. But
sorry, I don't really have anything to talk about this game because Rams made some mistakes as well, similar to the Lions. They turned the ball over, but I think a couple of them were just snow related, honestly. This was also a game I absolutely hated because I hate both of these teams. I'm not having fun in this playoffs. There's a lot of hate watching, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
So even the last game that we're going to probably talk about, there was a team on there that I hate too. So, but Saquon Barkley is a national treasure. This dude, because didn't he tear his ACL a couple years ago?
Think so.
Probably.
And
I know he's been
still doing
he's had
this.
shortened seasons a couple times.
He's doing this even after those injuries, which is, in my opinion, even more impressive. Yeah, I don't rely on Jalen Hurts. That's the problem, though. I can't rely on him. And apparently he has a knee issue now, so we'll see where that leads to them in championship weekend. But good win for them. I will say the snow definitely helped them out.
Oh, yeah. Braden, any thoughts on this game?
Really, the only thing I wanted to say is if Giants fans had any will to live left, I think it might be gone now. That's all.
Fair
also,
enough.
that was the one thing I got right last week was I knew that Rams defense was not going to stop the run, and good Lord, did they not do that at all.
No. Saquon averaged 233 yards a game against the Rams in 2 games this year.
They would have needed to call 99 to be able to stop that.
Which, honestly, I'm sure the Rams tried to. I wouldn't put it past Sean McVay to be like, yo, Aaron, come on, we're in a playoff run. Come on, one more time for old time's sake. But
I think I saw a stat during the game where Saquon had 4 touchdowns against the Rams, and they were all for 60-plus yards.
Yeah. Just insanity by Saquon Barkley. You were saying, Brock?
I wish we could give this guy the MVP, man.
I think, can I say something real quick? I think this validates why you don't let him get the record, because now he looks fresh, that he needed that week off from week 18. Now,
Absolutely.
He had a good game last week, and obviously 200 yards this past Sunday. I think if you would have pushed for that record, he'd probably still be playing at a pretty high level, but you don't know. He could have gotten injured. So I think this is validation of a good reason why they didn't play him in that week 18 for the record, even though a lot of Eagles fans and a lot of Eagles players wanted him to break that record.
If they go on to win the Super Bowl that week that he took off, could be looked back as one of the
Right.
greatest decisions of the season.
Right. Moving on to the final game of the divisional slate. The primetime matchup on Sunday Night Football, the one we were all looking forward to, probably the best game of the week. Buffalo faced off against Baltimore. Buffalo wins the score of 27-25 in a pretty tightly contested game. Just want to know your overall thoughts on the game. Again, do you think the Bills won this, or do you think really the Ravens lost this more?
Lamar lost it, is what it should be said. Had some stinker turnovers.
Right.
Had a fumble, had a pick. He made note about how bad that pick was. I think we had this conversation the last time I was on 2 weeks ago about whether or not when votes for MVP are submitted, but like, I feel like this game almost wrapped up. I think Josh Allen's going to get it at this point. Stats wise, it doesn't look like he did better than Lamar, but he was able to do more to help get his team to win. And shout out Bills Mafia for donating to Mark Andrews' charity for dropping that 2-point conversion catch. But silly mistakes and things that don't normally happen to a very good offense like the Ravens have had this year. Some miscommunication, some turnovers, and some dropped catches. So it was, in my opinion, more on just the Ravens struggling more than the Bills, as we lost Dawson due to internet connections.
All right. Well, Lamar certainly did not help them win, obviously. Had the 2 back-breaking turnovers. But at the end of the day, I think Mark Andrews had the ball in his hands to tie the game up and go in overtime, and that ball hit the dirt. You can say Lamar Jackson was responsible for at least 50% of that loss, but you got to give some flack to Mark Andrews there, man.
He had another bad catch or missed catch, right?
Catch fumble.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you couldn't have thrown a better ball in that spot, and he just dropped it, man. This is why Isaiah Likely and Charlie Kohler are coming for your job, man. It's time. Mark Andrews, Justin Tucker, it's been fun. Y'all were good for a while, but I think Father Time has come for you.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not sure if they're even. I guess they feel confident in Isaiah Likely. I don't know how they feel about Kohler because it doesn't seem like they ever give him an opportunity to do anything. But
he's more the blocker, I think, for him.
Yeah,
I just threw his name out there because Cyclone Legend. It's Isaiah Likely's team in the tight end room.
I wouldn't be shocked with how much they like using these tight ends if they if it's time to move on from Mark Andrews, if they draft someone maybe not in the first 2 rounds, but maybe a late draft pick of a tight end.
Kyle Pitts to the Ravens just feels like it's going to happen this offseason. Because it sounds like Pitts is going to get not extended, and it just seems like he's a Raven at this point. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Yet another move I definitely made in Madden 21.
Right, like
absolutely.
You're just assembling the Madden super team for the Ravens. But I'd like to make one quick point. I know Mark Andrews dropped that 2-point conversion. Like, you can put a lot of blame on him. Are we really sure the Ravens would have, there was a minute 20 or minute 30 left in that game. Buffalo had 2 timeouts. That was not going to lock up the win for Baltimore. Let's play this game. Let's assume they get the 2-point. Mark catches it. It's 27-all. You don't think Buffalo's going to go down and kick a game-winning field goal? Josh Allen only needs 30 yards. I don't rely on
Tyler Bass anymore.
That's fine. You might not. I just don't think there's a realm where Allen doesn't at least get the ball to the 35 and make it not a super short field goal, but not like a missable field goal for him. And then let's say he misses that. Are we really sure that the Bills weren't going to find a way to score in overtime and stop the Ravens? I don't know. There's just too many variables for me to put all that blame on the Mark Andrews drop. because there was still plenty of time left for the Bills to drive down all the way and score a field goal or a touchdown for that matter. So while I think Andrews deserves his fair share of the blame, I just don't think you could say that the game was won and lost off of that 2-point conversion.
No, I mean it wasn't, but you gotta at least get into position to at least play that game to give yourself a chance to be tied in that game again. I mean, you're not tied. The game is over. You've lost. You catch the ball. You tie the game up. Yeah, you do have a minute 30 seconds for the Bills to go do something, but at least you're giving the team a better chance to win. And he did not do that. That's just what you have to do.
Yeah.
All right.
Real quick, shout out.
Sorry.
I've watched a couple Bills games this year. Their patience with developing AJ Epinesa is, in my opinion, one of the stories that is not being talked about enough. In my opinion, I knew he was on the roster heading into this season, but like I didn't realize that they were actually giving him a bigger role compared to seasons past. He had a couple tackle for losses and just big plays as a whole. He's been able to pressure a lot more than previous seasons. And I know he's a Hawk, but man, they gave him time to develop, which is, I feel like, a lost art in the NFL. And he's become a huge impactful player for the Bills defense this season.
I think when we talk Bills, we always have to give Josh Allen his flowers because we have to. He's just that good. He's probably the second or third best quarterback in the league. Some argue the best. I won't make that argument right now, but some argue the best. I think where Buffalo is super, super, super good, though, is their trenches. I think they've won games strictly because of how good their O-line plays. And I know they only had one Pro Bowler on the O-line. And I know Deion Dawkins gets the majority of like the praise for that O-line. But I don't think you can go unsaid that the Bills' O-line and D-line are the reason, along with Josh Allen, why they're in the AFC title game at this point. Because you look at the rest of their roster, they don't really have a whole lot of weapons, like not great weapons anyway. They don't really have a whole lot of great guys in the secondary, but they are able to win the trenches and kind of bully teams around and kind of just, we saw in that second half, Buffalo was kind of just able to dominate the clock and keep Baltimore off the field. Eventually, Baltimore got a few scores to get it close, but it just felt like once the Bills got up 11, you could just feel that Buffalo was going to win that game, which I think is super important for them at this point in the season. Yeah, before we talk AFC Championship and NFC Championship games, we have had some hires for coaches over the last week or two. First one I really want to talk about is Mike Vrabel getting hired to be the head coach of the New England Patriots. What are your guys' thoughts on Vrabel? Vrabel was obviously old Tennessee Titans head coach, spent last year with the Browns. It kind of felt like once the Patriots fired Gerard Mayo that Vrabel was going to be the coach. They like to keep the New England like bloodline in. So what are your guys' thoughts on the Mike Vrabel hire?
I mean, the roster still is what it is. I don't. They still have not had like a. I don't really even feel like that was a true head coach search that they did. It was kind of just, oh, call Mike Vrabel. He's going to take the job. And last year it was, oh, call, I don't know, Gerard Mayo. Sure, that'll work. I mean, it Mike Vrabel had success in Tennessee, yes, but I feel like you have to at least, you can't just go through former players and just hope that they can restore you to your former glory. You got to at least put in a little bit of effort, and they're just not doing that. Would like to see some other guys get a shot. Not to say I think Vrabel's going to do a bad job, but I don't know. I don't know if he's got what it takes to rebuild that team back to a point where they can start competing again. Especially when you got really good teams in that division. You got the Bills, you got whatever the Dolphins are trying to do, and I don't know, the Jets, I guess. But I mean, those are teams that can compete if they can figure it out. So yeah, will be interesting to see how that turns out, but I have my hesitancies with it.
Brock, what are your thoughts on the Vrabel hire?
Can we just like let certain eras like die? I feel like this is kind of just beating a dead horse, trying to keep. I don't know. This is giving me like Heat culture vibes, NBA reference. Kind of like trying to keep what they've established as their brand, their reputation, their culture, whatever the Patriots want to call it. They need to accept that that era is over. Yeah, I think Vrabel is a good coach, and I think he could potentially, if given a long time to do it, could turn this team around. It's going to take a lot still, in my opinion. But I don't know why they want to, because he was fired last year, right?
Yeah, he spent this past year as like an offensive analyst for the Cleveland Browns.
I don't know why they didn't just call him in the first place, because I swear that like I saw this coming from a mile away. Like even like last year, I was like, "There's no way this Mayo's their guy. There's just no way." And so like I felt like they wasted a season almost, and that's a bad thing when you have a rookie quarterback. You cannot be wasting your seasons with a young quarterback. Yeah, I look at Chicago. When you waste seasons with quarterbacks, it usually results in a coaching change and bad things happen.
Yeah, and one other thing I would like to note for the Patriots, and they just announced either yesterday or today that Josh McDaniels is going to be the OC for the Patriots. So he's back with New England. It feels like he's had like 4 stops there at some point in his
Brady's
career.
coming back. It's over.
Yeah. Yeah. And Brock, you made a good analogy that I thought was interesting with kind of like tying it with Miami. It almost feels like the Heat hired like Udonis Haslem to run like their front office or something, because they don't want to get rid of that Heat culture and they want it to stay within the building. I just thought that was kind of that you made a pretty spot on comparison when it comes to the Patriots and the Heat. Sometimes you just need to let eras die and move on, because it's going to get worse before it's going to get better for a lot of these teams that are hiring and firing coaches. So I think if you could shut that era down for the Patriots, because it's been already, 6 years since Brady was on that team?
Yep.
Patriots fans just need to move on. So
the quicker, the better.
Right. They're only doing themselves a disservice by trying to relive the glory days.
Yep. Stop. If you're doing the same thing over and over again, and getting terrible results, but you're expecting a different result,
that's insanity.
It's the definition of insanity. And we're getting to that point for New England. And New England's going to get to the point where they're going to be a franchise where they're at the point of no return, where they're like Carolina, where every other year it's just a circle of new quarterback, fire coach.
Don't hate on the Panthers. They got their coach quarterback figured out.
But like it took them.
It did.
Almost 10 years.
They had to go through the Matt
Cam
Rule
went
era.
Down, it was pretty much over. Look at Chicago. They have yet to have a quarterback that's passed for 4,000 yards in the season, right?
Which is crazy, yeah.
And okay, and we can transition to that if we want, but like I do think they got someone that is going to set up Chicago for a bright future. But man, it took them a long time to even get that little glimmer of hope, because I feel like the last couple coaches they've gotten, a lot of Chicago fans were just like, I don't know. I don't know if that's going to move the needle. I do think Ben Johnson's a different story, though.
Yeah, and let's just get right into it and talk about the Ben Johnson move. A lot of Bears fans are finally rejoicing and they're celebrating, because it feels like they got the best hire out of this coaching cycle. That's what it's been the talk the last 2 years. Is Ben Johnson, when he becomes available to be a head coach, is going to be the first person that a lot of people want to run their team / organization. What are your guys' thoughts on Ben Johnson going to Chicago? I have some thoughts. I think Ben was maybe 1 foot in, 1 foot out the door with Detroit his last week there, because it sounds like there's reports coming out he's been building his staff for the last few weeks. I don't know. That's not something I would want to hear if I'm a Detroit fan. But what are your guys' thoughts on Ben Johnson to the Bears?
Yeah, like you said, I would not like that really on either side. If my head coach if my future head coach was at his old job still not caring, I don't I would not like that as a Bears fan. Really hate it as a Detroit fan. I'm seeing Detroit fans get lit up for saying that Ben Johnson, like, I mean, don't let the door hit you on the way out. Just because, I mean, yeah, he did rebuild that offense, but he also kind of just spat in their face and left by doing what he's pretty much done. So, yeah, I think he's going to be all right as a head coach. I think it's going to work out a lot better than it really has for the Bears for who knows how long. But yeah, really don't blame the Lions fans for being salty about this one. Uh, the only other thing I want to say is how funny is it that he had a chance to be the Washington head coach last year and said, no, I want to stay with the Lions and win, and then got beat by the same team that he turned down, and then said, screw you, Jaden Daniels. I'm going to rebuild. I'm going to help the guy that got picked ahead of you go be better than you. Out of spite. What a guy.
First of all, I would like to say, I thought whoever was going to get Dan Quinn as a head coach was going to be set up for a good future. I think Dan Quinn is a really good coach. You should see some of the messages I used to send, though, towards the end of the Dan Quinn era, just because it seemed like his teams just continuously found ways to lose, like just in the most random ways. Like after that Super Bowl run, I think Dallas like recovered an onside kick the first couple weeks after that. They lost weirdly just that entire season. And I used to text my buddies. I'm like, oh, Dan Quinn, the worst head coach in the NFL, is finding yet another way to lose. I feel like he had to get fired, go to Dallas, which is funny talking about Dallas being a good thing, but had to go to Dallas to like rediscover his love for coaching, because I feel like that Super Bowl loss in Atlanta really did affect that entire team mentally. You can just look at what happened after that game. Now that he's in Washington,
Dealing with the repercussions of that game, yes,
yeah,
he sure did.
Yep. Now he's in Washington, and you could not have asked as much crap as I give Cliff Kingsbury for his time in Arizona. A head coach being a heavy defensive-minded guy, getting Cliff Kingsbury as his OC is one of the best combinations that you can get. Because, again, terrible head coach, really good offensive coordinator, or just coach on the offensive side. When all he has to do is worry about the quarterback, because let's be honest, that's all Cliff Kingsbury thinks about when he's an offensive coordinator. What can I do for my quarterback? And he's done that with Jaden Daniels. Okay, now getting back to Ben Johnson going to Chicago, I do think...
Yeah, I forgot that's what we were talking about.
Sorry, I had to get on my little soapbox because I do like Dan Quinn. I used to hate him, or I just hated the ways that he found ways to lose. I don't know. But I do think it's a good hire. I do think it's probably my favorite hire of the last, 10 coaches it seems like they've hired in the last 4 years. It's going to set up the offense, I feel like, for a bright future. He, similar to Dan Quinn, needs to find a really good defensive coordinator if they're going to make moves. Because did they clear house completely with their staff, or did they?
I don't know if completely, but they definitely got a lot of guys out of there.
So, assuming, like Dawson, like you mentioned, that Ben Johnson has been developing his staff over the past couple weeks or whatever, which I do think happens more than people think. So I don't know how much I would think that he kind of like had 1 foot in, 1 foot out kind of thing, didn't try as much in Detroit. However, again, watching the game, it looked like he was just kind of messing around when you look at some of the plays that they were doing. Hence the random trick play to throw a pass for an interception from a wide receiver. But either way, I think it's a good hire. I think Caleb Williams is going to be set up for a bright future in Chicago. What's a bright future for Chicago? Making the playoffs consistently, I guess. Maybe competing for a divisional championship. I feel like that NFC North every other year could have a different champion for the next 4 years, just because of how the rosters are built out, and how I don't know. I just think it's a mess, but a good mess, because I think all 4 teams could compete really well in the NFC. So good hire, bright future for them. Now they just need to do it. That's the problem, though. Chicago has the hype for hiring head coaches, and then they just plateau right away. They just need to do it. They need to just, yeah. They need to win. Honestly, that's where it's at. You can hire the fancy new car as the head coach, and if he does nothing, he does nothing, and all of a sudden you're looking at a new quarterback in 2 years. So, but I think they're in a better position than they were when they drafted Caleb.
Yeah, I agree, and I think the number that I heard that he's getting paid is north of $13 million a year, which is pretty wild for a first-time head coach, I gotta say. But I mean, if there's any person that's been available as a head coach over the last few years, I don't think there's anyone perfect for the Chicago Bears than Ben Johnson at this point. And then moving on to the last coaching hire up until this point, as we're recording on a Thursday night, Aaron Glenn is going to be the head coach of the New York Jets. That was announced as of, I think, Wednesday, like afternoon, kind of in that time range. But what are your guys' thoughts on Aaron Glenn? Yet another Detroit coordinator leaving for a head coaching job, going to a pretty weird situation with the Jets. Who knows if Rodgers is going to play next year? They have what seems like 2 unhappy wide receivers in Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson. Is this a good hire in your guys' books, or what are the Jets doing in your guys' opinion?
That is a question many Jets fans have been asking for decades.
Yeah. I like Aaron Glenn as a head coaching prospect, but it feels like you fired Robert Saleh. You realize you did not get better. In fact, possibly got even worse, and then said, well, I mean, we can't just rehire Robert Saleh. So you went and grabbed Robert Saleh again, 2.0. I mean, what are the Jets doing? That I think there are a lot of people out there that would like to know the answer to that question.
I don't even think the Jets know what they're doing.
No.
Their players don't, that's for sure.
Nope.
Yeah. Sell the team, fire everybody. I don't know. Just make something happen.
Get some of those stars out of there, because they're wasting a lot of careers right now.
Yeah. Whatever's happening right now, don't do that. Don't do it.
The funniest full circle moment ever would be if Sam Darnold signs a contract with the Jets. You don't think that'd be hilarious?
It'd be hilarious,
funny,
but I
would
just
never
know
do it.
what's going to happen.
I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I just think the best full circle moment is you just end up getting Sam Darnold back. It's like, I think that's just
happens,
hilarious for all Jets fans.
If that's going to happen, we need it to be a trade for Aaron Rodgers to go to a sign and trade
Minnesota
to go to Minnesota. If we're going to go full circle
Brett
crap
Favre
moments, give me that, and then give me Aaron Rodgers throwing a pick in the NFC Championship game for
Across
a
the
team.
middle.
Yeah, a team that has never won a Super Bowl before. I'm not sure why anybody would want to go to New York.
That's what I'm saying, man. If I'm Sam Darnold and the only team that wants to give me the money that like people are saying Sam Darnold's going to get is the Jets, I'm saying no. I'm taking a pay cut. I'm going back to Minnesota because
a good way to look at it.
The demons that man has in that Jets green, no man should have to go through that once, let alone twice.
And what head coach or what head coaching candidate would want to go to New York either? I don't. If it was me, I would rather be the defensive coordinator for Detroit again than being a head coach for New York.
I don't know, man. That guaranteed money on a head coaching contract, even if you get canned, it's different.
That's the perspective that I'll never understand, because I'm a competitor, and so I'm always like, I'd rather win as a defensive coordinator than ever be a head coach. But at the same time, I haven't even been offered like 10%, not 1% of 13 million. or whatever he's getting. Like, I'll never understand that. But man, I would not, as a competitor, ever think about signing as head coach for the Jets. It's unless you're in it for the money. That's where I'm at.
I mean, yeah, if you're in it for the money, what better place to go to than the Jets? You'd coach for a year, maybe 2, get fired, still get that contract money. You can go coach at some high school or something. I don't know.
Yeah, just kind of work your way back up the ladder, and then in like maybe
Just keep
5 or
making
6
that
years,
money, man.
be like, oh, so and so should be a head coach.
Who said about working back up the ladder? Just go do Chip Kelly things and go win the national championship.
No,
as
but
an OC.
he had to go work up the ladder because he went from as the UCLA head coach to be like, no, I hate this. He's like, you know what? I'm going to go to the OC of Ohio State and go in the Natty.
Work back up the ladder. I think getting the OC position from UCLA is a better upgrade.
That's what I'm saying. He's working up the ladder.
He failed at UCLA. How do you fail up? I'm tired of coaches failing up. Cliff Kingsbury sucked at Texas Tech and got a head coaching job at Arizona.
This is just Brock's rant moments right now of Cliff Kingsbury. Those days are over, buddy. You don't even have to think. Is it Jonathan Gannon?
The bad man cannot hurt you anymore. He is gone.
Well,
no,
unless
coach, I don't even really understand. He's just kind of there. He's like a NPC or whatever, non-playable.
That's crazy.
He's just sitting there like, yep, I'm the head coach, and Kyler's here, and we have Marvin Harrison, who had the biggest flop a rookie wide receiver who had all the hype has had in a long time. And then we somehow managed to get our tight end 1 receiving touchdown all year. Woo! And he was arguably one of the best tight ends in the league.
He got
one, though.
Some people, guys like us, will never know what it's like to catch an NFL touchdown. That man, Trey McBride, knows what it's like to catch an NFL touchdown. I don't know how we got on this tangent of talking about Cliff Kingsbury and the Cardinals in that era.
This is just showing you how much I'm not looking forward to the NFC Championship, okay?
Let's just jump into the NFC Championship, the Cliff Kingsbury game. Eagles and Commanders, it's the first game this Sunday. It's at 2 o'clock. Philly's at home. They're the 6-point favorite. Who do you guys got in this game, and where do you think is going to be the X factor?
I don't know.
Is this a plead the fifth moment?
This you know what? Screw it. I was against the Commanders last week. I think they do it, and I think your X.
No, don't say that. Then it won't happen.
So you Braden, just to be clear, you're taking the Commanders?
I'm taking the Commanders, baby.
All right.
All right. Jonathan Allen, lead me to the promised land.
All right. Brock, who's got this one?
As long as we don't all say the Commanders, we're fine. So no problem.
I was wanting to take Philly and the points, but I don't know. I'm not sold on Jalen Hurts right now. I don't know what his knee issue is, and I don't know how big of a deal it is. And if it's not snowing, which who knows? There could be another blizzard in Philadelphia. It just seems like there always is. So the X factor really is going to be, can Washington stop the run? Because if you stop the run, you're going to set yourself up for a really good game. And Jaden Daniels could cap off one of the biggest. No, if they win, will be the biggest rookie season, the best rookie season in NFL history for a quarterback. However, experience outweighs, talent, and I'm saying Jaden Daniels is more talented than Jalen Hurts at the quarterback matchup. So I think the experience from this Philadelphia Eagles team, being that they've been to the Super Bowl, now Saquon Barkley hasn't been in this position, but most of the team has. So give me the Eagles to win by like a field goal. I think it could come down to the final kick of the game.
All right, I like the pick. And as someone who went 4 for 4 in predicting the spreads last week, no big deal. Just kind of flexing on that. I do think Washington covers this game at 6 points. I do not think they win the game, however. I like Brock's theory. It's going to be a field goal game, maybe a 4-point game. I could see the game being 24-20, something like that. It's supposed to be fairly good weather. It says that game time's supposed to be 39 degrees in Philly, so that's pretty optimal for both sides, honestly. But I think in the end, I think this is where the heroic season of Jaden Daniels ends in Philadelphia, which then moves us into our second game on that Sunday.
Real quick. The Eagles defense is a section of the NFL that we haven't talked a ton about, but they're going to pressure Daniels a lot, and they're going to force him to make decisions.
I don't know if pressuring Daniels is the right thing to do, dude. He just seems cool, calm, and collected back there in the pocket. He doesn't make any mistakes. Granted, last time these two teams played in December, I think Daniels had 2 interceptions, and Washington ended up winning that one, 36-33 or something. Something along those lines. I don't know if you want to pressure Daniels.
I'm not. Full disclosure, not comparing these two together talent-wise whatsoever. I need that clear.
Right.
Purdy looked very cool, calm, and collective his first year when he subbed in for the 49ers until he played the Eagles. Obviously, he got hurt, but they kept pressuring him throughout that entire game. So, again, you could put the asterisks on, well, he got hurt. But the Eagles' pressure is a little different compared to other teams who are able to pressure quarterback as well. So I think the X factor of this game will be, can Washington's defense stop the run? And can the Eagles' defense pressure the quarterback enough to where they can force Daniels to make those rookie mistakes that we haven't really seen at all this year? He only has 9 interceptions to his name.
I could not agree more. And then this kind of leads us into the second game of Sunday, the AFC title game. Obviously, we all know the Chiefs are going to play the Buffalo Bills at 5:30 this Sunday. The line right now has Kansas City as a 2-point favorite. Who do you guys got in this game, and what's going to be the X factor for this one?
The refs. I'm sorry. No, I was sorry.
All right. Yeah, give me the Chiefs. Just because the Lord left us a long time ago. We are not allowed to have nice things on this planet. Yeah, give me the Chiefs by a field goal, and the X factor is going to be the voodoo devil magic ritual they do pregame. There you go.
Give me the Chiefs to cover the 2-point spread. They'll do enough to get a good lead into the fourth quarter to the point where they won't have to work as much and just run the clock out with Mahomes and the boys, and they'll go back to the Super Bowl. If touchdown Jesus can't win this week in the national championship, I don't know if the football gods are on my side. So
these two teams obviously matched up earlier in the season. Buffalo won that one, I think 30-23 or 22, something like that. They won by a score. I think this is going to be a really close game, but in the end, I'm going to take Kansas City, obviously. I think last time these two teams played, both teams respectively had key players missing. I don't think Keon Coleman for Buffalo played. Hollywood Brown for the Chiefs didn't play. The couple defenders on both sides didn't play. Both teams are about the healthiest they're going to be all year in this game, which I think is crucial for both sides. I just think in the end, I'm just going to roll with the Chiefs.
I'm a Chiefs fan.
Yeah, well, I'm good. I was going to pick the Chiefs anyway. I picked the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl last year in the playoffs, and now I even have more reason to pick them this year. But I expect a pretty high-scoring game. I know the stat of Kansas City not scoring more than 31 this season is being thrown around. I think this game's going to be 35-28. I think it's going to be a nip and tuck game and then by a touchdown. That's where I think.
34-13.
Wow. Braden, score prediction before we wrap this one up?
31-28.
Wow.
I think the Chiefs are going to I'm all in on this hypothetical New York Giants Washington Commanders situation now. They're going to have their best game this week, the Chiefs are, and then they're going to come in and then Jaden Manning Daniels is going to come up.
Yeah, and that one right there will wrap up this episode of the Sports Nerd. Kind of recapping the divisional round and the conference championship picks. But For Braden Bank and Brock Bierman, I'm Dawson Livingston, signing out.